I was standing in the ballroom of the Rosewood Hotel, watching my husband Victor adjust his tie in front of 200 guests. The lights sparkled off the silver balloons hanging from the ceiling. Champagne towers lined the tables, bubbles rising in perfect columns. A string quartet played something soft and elegant in the corner. Everyone was smiling, laughing, waiting for Victor to toast our 25-year marriage. But my heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. My hands were wrapped around a champagne glass, but I hadn't taken a single sip. I couldn't. Because 3 weeks ago, I found something. A folder hidden in his briefcase. And what I discovered in those pages changed absolutely everything. In about 60 seconds, Victor was going to step up to that microphone. He was going to give a speech. A speech he'd been rehearsing with his lawyer. A speech designed to humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. He thought he knew exactly how this night was going to end. He thought he had all the power. He thought he had the upper hand. He thought I was the same woman I was yesterday. The quiet, agreeable wife who smiled at his dinner parties and never asked questions. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I looked down at my dress. Red silk. Fitted. Bold. I bought it specifically for this moment. Not the soft pastels Victor's mother always said were more appropriate. Not the safe colors I'd worn for 25 years. Red. The color of fire. The color of war. Victor caught my eye from across the room and smiled. That charming smile that had fooled me for 2.5 decades. That smile that made investors hand him millions. That smile that made strangers trust him instantly. But I saw through it now. I saw what was underneath. The microphone squealed slightly as someone adjusted it. People turned their attention to the front of the room. Victor straightened his jacket. He was ready. He thought he was ready. But what Victor didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that when he finished his speech, when he handed me that microphone and expected me to crumble, I was going to stand up. And I was going to say something that would destroy his entire world. If you want to see what happens when a woman finally fights back, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is just getting started. Tell me in the comments, have you ever discovered something that completely changed how you saw someone? Drop your answer below. My name is Joanna, 3 weeks earlier. It started on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was standing at the kitchen counter, measuring coffee grounds into the filter. The morning light came through the window over the sink, that soft golden September light that usually made me feel peaceful. But that morning, something was different. Victor's phone was sitting on the kitchen counter. He never did that. Never. The man slept with his phone on the nightstand, took it into the bathroom, guarded it like it contained nuclear launch codes. But that morning he was rushing, said he had an early meeting. He jumped in the shower, left the phone behind, and I could hear the water running through the pipes in the walls. The phone buzzed. Once. I looked at it, looked away. Poured water into the coffee maker. It buzzed again. I told myself to ignore it. Told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself that healthy marriages were built on trust. It buzzed a third time. The screen lit up and I saw a name I didn't recognize. Hayes and Associates. My hand was shaking when I picked it up. I don't know why. I didn't know anything yet. But something in my body knew before my brain did. Something deep in my gut was screaming that this mattered. The voicemail started playing on speaker automatically. A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. Efficient. Mr. Winters, this is Patricia from Hayes and Associates. Just confirming our meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. to finalize the anniversary strategy. Mrs. Ashford will be joining us to discuss the property transfer timeline. Please bring the financial documents we discussed, particularly the condo paperwork. Looking forward to seeing you both. I stood there holding Victor's phone. The coffee maker gurgled behind me. The shower was still running upstairs. Anniversary strategy, property transfer, condo paperwork. Mrs. Ashford, that was Eliza, Victor's mother, my mother-in-law of 25 years. The woman who still introduced me at parties as Victor's wife instead of using my name. The woman who'd never thought I was good enough for her son. And she was meeting with Victor. And someone named Patricia. at a place called Hayes and Associates. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. I set it back down on the counter, exactly where Victor had left it. Stepped back, stared at it like it was a bomb. Then I grabbed my own phone and searched. Hayes and Associates, Washington, D.C. The results loaded. Family law, divorce attorneys, 5-star reviews for aggressive representation and favorable settlements. The words swam in front of my eyes. Anniversary strategy. I stood in our kitchen, the kitchen in the Georgetown condo I thought was ours, and felt something cold slide down my spine. Something heavy settle in my chest, like I'd swallowed a stone. Victor came out of the shower 10 minutes later, hair wet, cologne too strong. He was wearing one of his new shirts. The fitted ones I'd noticed lately but hadn't thought much about. He smiled at me. That easy, charming smile, kissed my cheek. Quick, obligatory. Already thinking about something else. Did you pick up my dry cleaning? He asked. Yes, I said. My voice sounded normal, steady, like I hadn't just heard a voicemail that shattered my entire world. It's in the closet. You're the best. He grabbed his phone from the counter, checked it, frowned slightly, then grabbed his briefcase and keys. I'll be home late tonight, client dinner. Okay, I said, have a good day. He nodded, and he left. I stood there listening to his footsteps. The front door opening, closing, his car starting in the garage, pulling away, and then I moved. The moment the sound of his engine faded, I ran upstairs. My heart was pounding. My hands were still shaking. I went straight to his office, the room I wasn't supposed to enter without knocking. The room he'd claimed as his personal space 20 years ago, and I'd respected that boundary ever since. Not today. I pushed the door open. His desk was neat, too neat. Everything organized, everything in its place. But his briefcase was still there. The leather one he used for important meetings. He'd taken his laptop bag instead. I opened the briefcase, folders, papers. Everything looked like normal work documents at first. Financial reports, contracts, proposals. But then I saw it. Hidden underneath everything else, a manila folder, legal size. And on the tab, in Victor's neat handwriting, anniversary plan. My hands were steady when I opened it. Steadier than they'd been holding his phone. Because now I knew. Now I wasn't guessing anymore. Inside were printouts, bullet points typed up like a business presentation, a timeline, a strategy document, and notes in Victor's handwriting in the margins. Breaking it gently but firmly in public so she can't cause a scene. Announce at party, guests as witnesses. Emphasize mutual decision, amicable separation. There was a guest list, our anniversary party guest list. The one I'd been working on for 6 months. Choosing the venue, picking the caterer, designing the invitations. And Victor had taken that list and highlighted names in yellow. In the margin next to the highlighted names, he'd written one word: witnesses. He was planning to divorce me at our anniversary party, in front of 200 people. And he was choosing which people to invite based on who would make good witnesses. I kept reading. There were more notes about the condo, about claiming it as marital property, about the settlement he wanted, about how to frame the narrative so he looked like the good guy and I looked like we'd just grown apart. And then I saw the photos. Printed photos. Professional quality, like he'd saved them and printed them out to look at. A young woman. Dark hair, olive skin, beautiful, bright smile. In one photo she was wearing yoga pants and a sports bra, holding a green smoothie. In another she was in a cocktail dress, at some kind of event. I turned the photo over. Written on the back in Victor's handwriting, Cecilia Scott, 28. 28 years old. I sat there in Victor's office chair, holding a photo of a woman half my age, reading my husband's plan to humiliate me publicly at our anniversary party, and I felt something crack inside me. Not my heart, that would have hurt. This was different. This was rage. I pulled out my phone, took pictures of everything. Every page, every note, every bullet point, every highlighted name, every photo of Cecilia Scott, 28. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Closed the folder, closed the briefcase, left the office, closed the door, and I went back downstairs and did something I'd never done before. I opened the family tracking app on my phone. The one Victor and I had installed years ago when we first got iPhones. He'd said it was for safety, in case one of us ever got lost or had an emergency. I'd forgotten it was even there. He probably had too. Or maybe he just thought I'd never check it, that I'd never have a reason to, that I was just his wife. What would I do with it? I watched the blue dot that represented Victor's phone move across Washington, D.C. It didn't go to his office in Tyson's Corner. It went to DuPont Circle, stopped at a coffee shop, stayed there for 2 hours. Then it moved to Connecticut Avenue. I zoomed in, Googled the address, Hayes and Associates. He was there for 90 minutes. I sat on the couch, stared at my phone, watched the blue dots sit there at the divorce attorney's office while my husband discussed the anniversary strategy, while he planned how to take my home, while he met with his mother to coordinate my public humiliation. When the blue dot finally started moving toward home, I put my phone away, picked up a book, made myself look casual, relaxed. Victor came home looking tired, stressed. I asked if his day was okay. Fine, he said, just long. I offered to make dinner. I'm not hungry, he said, and he went straight to his office and closed the door. Over the next week I watched him, really watched him. I saw things I'd been missing for months, maybe years. The way he smiled at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. This soft, private smile I hadn't seen him give me in a decade. The way he'd started going to the gym at 5 a.m. Victor. The man who'd complained about morning exercise for 25 years. Suddenly he was up before dawn, coming home with wet hair and this energized look on his face. The new clothes in his closet. Fitted shirts that showed off the body he was building at that 5 a.m. gym. Dark jeans instead of his usual khakis. A leather jacket I'd never seen before. When I asked about it, he said it was for a work event. It looks good on you, I said. He barely looked at me when he said thanks. I watched him check his phone constantly. Saw the way his face changed when certain notifications came through. Watched him take calls in his office with the door closed. Heard his voice through the walls, quieter, warmer, laughing in a way he hadn't laughed with me in years. And then one night, when Victor was in the shower, I went back into his office. I'd watched him type his password enough times over the years, his mother's birthday backwards. Not creative, not secure, but effective enough when you think your wife will never look. I opened his laptop, and I found everything. Emails. Dozens of them. Hundreds maybe. From Cecilia, long messages about missing him, about the future they were planning, about how excited she was, heart emojis, promises, plans. From Eliza, cold, strategic messages about timing, about the party, about the property, about how to handle me, about making sure Victor got what he deserved. From Hayes and Associates, legal language, strategy documents, advice on how to structure the announcement, how to position the narrative, how to protect Victor's assets. They'd been planning this for 4 months. The affair had been going on for 8. I scrolled through message after message, watched my marriage dissolve in real time through emails I was never supposed to see. And then I found something else, in Victor's browsing history, a shared Google spreadsheet. The title was New Beginning. I clicked on it. It was a furniture planning document, links to West Elm, CB2, article, room and board, modern furniture, minimalist, clean lines, nothing like what we had in our home now, nothing like the traditional pieces we'd chosen together, nothing like me. And in the comment section next to each item, I saw her, Cecilia, leaving heart emojis. Writing, love this, and perfect for the living room and can't wait. They were redecorating my home. In their heads, I was already gone. They'd already moved on to choosing furniture. I sat there in the glow of Victor's laptop screen looking at a spreadsheet titled New Beginning, and I realized something. Victor didn't just want a divorce. He wanted to erase me. He wanted to take my home, humiliate me publicly, make it look mutual and amicable so his reputation stayed intact. Then move his 28-year-old girlfriend into the home my parents had given me and start over. Like I'd never existed. Like 25 years meant nothing. I closed the laptop, turned off the office light, went back downstairs, and I started planning. Here's what Victor and Eliza forgot about me. Or maybe they never knew. Maybe I'd hidden it so well that even I forgot sometimes. 25 years ago, I wasn't just some girl Victor married at a society wedding his mother planned. I was Joanna Travis. Georgetown Law, class of 2000. I graduated in the top 10% of my class. Passed the bar on my first try. I was the youngest associate ever hired at Brennan & Cole, one of the most prestigious law firms in Washington, D.C. Partners at other firms knew my name. I had a reputation. I had a future. My parents were Susan and Felix Travis, both physicians. They built a thriving medical practice in Bethesda, Maryland from absolutely nothing. My father came from a working-class family in Pennsylvania. His dad was a factory worker. His mom cleaned houses. My mother was the daughter of a high school teacher from Ohio who grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 siblings. They met in medical school, married young, and built something together through sheer determination and discipline, and working 70-hour weeks for years. They saved every single dollar, never bought anything they couldn't afford twice over. Invested carefully. And when I graduated from Georgetown Law, when I got engaged to Victor Winters, the charming tech entrepreneur with the impeccable smile and the old money last name, they gave me a gift. The Georgetown condo. 2 bedrooms. Renovated kitchen. Walking distance to the law school where I'd spent 3 years of my life barely sleeping, studying until 3 a.m., fighting to be the best. The deed was in my name. Only my name. Joanna Travis. Not Winters. Travis. I remember my mother sitting me down the day before my wedding. We were in her living room. She was holding my hands, and she said something I'll never forget. Joanna, I love your father, with everything I have, but I never put everything in his name. Not the house, not the accounts, not my future. A smart woman always keeps something of her own. I nodded. I thought I understood. I didn't. Not then. After the wedding, things changed. Gradually. So gradually I didn't notice until it was already done. Victor's tech startup was taking off. He was working 18-hour days, flying to San Francisco and New York for investor meetings, building something that would eventually sell for $40 million. And someone needed to manage the home front. Someone needed to host the dinner parties for potential investors who wanted to see that Victor was stable, married, responsible. Someone needed to be the gracious, elegant wife at company events who made him look successful and family-oriented. That someone was me. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd go back to Brennan Cole after Victor's company stabilized, that this was just a season, a sacrifice we were both making for our future. But the company grew, and grew, and suddenly I wasn't going back to work next month, or next year. I was planning larger dinner parties, sitting on charity boards because that's what the wives of successful tech entrepreneurs did. Joining the junior league because Eliza insisted it was important for Victor's reputation. I kept my bar license active, kept in touch with a few colleagues from the firm, did some consulting work on the side. Small cases, document review, nothing that would interfere with my real job, which had become making Victor Winters look good. And for the first time since I'd met her, Eliza approved of me. I remember sitting at a country club luncheon with her and her friends. She introduced me to someone new. And she said, Joanna's finally stepping into her role. Victor needs a partner, not a competitor. I smiled. I drank my wine. I wondered when I'd stopped being Joanna Travis and become just Victor's wife. But here's what they didn't see. What Victor and Eliza and everyone else at those dinner parties didn't know. While I was planning fundraisers and hosting dinners and playing the perfect wife, I was also managing our investment portfolio. Victor made the money, but I made it grow. I read every financial report. I met with our advisor quarterly. I diversified our assets. I prepared for the future, because that's what lawyers do. We prepare, we plan, we see 3 moves ahead. And I did something else. I kept my own accounts. My consulting income, small but steady, went into an account under my maiden name. Travis, not Winters. I kept my own credit cards, my own P.O. box for professional correspondence, my own network of colleagues who still called me by my full name. I stayed on the boards of 3 nonprofits, real ones, not social clubs. organizations that did actual legal work, immigration advocacy, housing rights, domestic violence support. I reviewed their cases, I advised their attorneys. I kept my mind sharp. I stayed Joanna Travis, attorney at law, even if nobody called me that anymore. Even if Victor introduced me at parties as my wife and then moved on to more interesting conversations with men who actually mattered. If you want to see how this woman takes back everything they tried to steal from her, subscribe now. Because what happens next will blow your mind. I had lunch once a month with Fiona Patel, my best friend from Georgetown. She'd made partner at Morgan & Associates, one of the top family law firms in D.C. Fiona never married, never wanted to. I see too many divorces, she'd say, every time someone asked why she was still single. I know how this story ends. We'd laugh. I'd tell her my marriage was different. Victor and I were partners. We respected each other. We were building something together. She'd nod and change the subject. Looking back now, I wonder if she knew before I did. 2 months before I found that voicemail, my Aunt Joy died. She was my mother's older sister, brilliant woman, never married. She'd been a mathematician, then a financial analyst, then a private investor. She lived in a modest apartment in Boston's South End and drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic that she refused to replace because it still runs perfectly fine. But here's what I didn't tell anyone at the time. Joy hadn't just randomly gotten sick. She'd been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer a year earlier. And I'd known. I'd been visiting her every month in Boston, every single month for a year. I told Victor I was going to continuing legal education seminars, CLE credits, required for maintaining my bar license. He never questioned it, never asked what the seminars were about, never asked for details, never noticed that I went to Boston on the exact same weekend every month for 12 straight months. Joy and I had long conversations during those visits. About life, about marriage, about choices, about the things women don't say out loud. She'd ask me questions. Real questions. Not the polite ones you ask at dinner parties. Was I happy? Did I feel seen? Did I feel valued? At first, I gave her the answers I thought I should give. The answers I'd been giving myself for years. Yes, of course. Victor and I are fine. Marriage is work. Everyone struggles. We're building a life together. But Joy was too smart for that. Too observant. By the third visit, I was telling her the truth about feeling invisible. About the dinner parties where I was decoration, where I smiled and served wine and made small talk while the men discussed business in the other room. About the way Victor introduced me, my wife, not Joanna, not an attorney, just his wife. About Eliza's comments, the constant little digs. Are you sure you want to wear that? Maybe you should consider highlights. You know, Victor needs someone who understands his world. About the life I'd given up, the partnership I'd been on track for at Brennan & Cole, the career I'd walked away from to make his career possible. One afternoon in July, Joy sat me down in her tiny living room. She was thin by then, tired. The cancer was winning, but her eyes were still sharp, still seeing everything. She said, "Joanna, I'm leaving you everything, my estate, all of it. But I need you to promise me something." I started to protest. Told her she didn't need to think about that yet, that she was going to beat this. She held up her hand. "Promise me. Keep it separate. Don't tell Victor. Don't merge it with marital assets. Just keep it yours. Just in case." I asked her what she meant. She looked at me with so much sadness, the kind of sadness that comes from seeing something you can't prevent. "I see the way you talk about your marriage," she said, "like you're describing a job, not a partnership. Like you're reporting on someone else's life. I just want you to have options. I want you to never be trapped." Joy died in August, on a Tuesday morning. Peacefully, the hospice nurse said. I flew up to Boston alone for the funeral. Victor said he couldn't get away from work. Big meeting, important clients. You understand. There were maybe 20 people at the service. Colleagues from her early career at Goldman Sachs. A few neighbors from her building. The attorney who was handling her will. After the service, the attorney, a woman named Eleanor Marsh, with a kind face and a firm handshake, pulled me aside. "Your aunt asked me to expedite everything. Eleanor said. To make sure the money was in your name alone, in separate accounts, before anything happened. She said you might need it sooner than we think. Eleanor paused, looked at me carefully. I didn't understand what she meant then, she said, but I do now. Joy had left me everything: her apartment in Boston, her 15-year-old Honda Civic, and an investment portfolio worth $3.2 million. $3.2 million. Eleanor helped me set it all up: trusts, accounts, everything separate, everything protected, everything in my name only. Joanna Travis, not Winters. Travis. When I signed the final papers in Eleanor's office overlooking Boston Common, she said something I'll never forget. Your aunt was protecting you from beyond the grave. She knew something was coming. She wanted you to be ready. I flew home that night with the paperwork in my bag and a strange feeling in my chest. Not quite grief, not quite relief. Something in between. When I got home, Victor was in his office. Laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. He waved when he saw me, held up one finger. 1 minute. An hour later, he came out. How was the funeral, he asked. Sad, I said. He nodded and went back to his laptop. He never asked about the will, never asked about Joy's estate, never asked if she'd left anything to anyone, never asked if I was okay, and I never told him. I added $3.2 million to my separate accounts, and my husband never noticed. Joy had given me exactly what she promised. Options. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had someone protect you in a way you didn't understand until later? Share your story below. The day after I found the anniversary plan folder, I called Fiona. I didn't text, I called. My hands were shaking when I dialed her number. Hey, I said when she picked up. Can you meet me for coffee? There was a pause. Fiona knew me well enough to hear what I wasn't saying. When? She asked. Now, if you can. Not our usual place. Somewhere else. Another pause. Longer this time. I'll meet you in an hour, she said. Text me the address. We went to a small cafe in DuPont Circle, the kind of place where nobody from Victor's world would ever go. Too casual, too anonymous, mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, college kids studying in the corner. No one who would recognize me as Victor Winters' wife. I got there first, ordered a coffee I didn't drink, sat at a table in the back where no one could see us from the street. Fiona arrived exactly an hour later. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. Her hair was down. I'd never seen her look so casual. She was always in a suit when I saw her. Always professional, always composed. She sat down across from me, looked at my face, and pulled out her legal pad. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. I told her about the phone call. Hayes & Associates, anniversary strategy. Property transfer timeline. I told her about the folder, the bullet points, the highlighted guest list, the notes about breaking it gently but firmly in public so I couldn't cause a scene. I told her about the photos. Cecilia Scott, 28 years old. Dark hair. Beautiful. The woman my husband was planning to move into my home. I told her about the emails, between Victor and Eliza, between Victor and Cecilia, between all of them and the divorce attorneys. 4 months of planning. 8 months of affair. I told her about the furniture spreadsheet. New beginning. Modern minimalist pieces. Heart emojis in the comments. They were already redecorating my home in their heads. Fiona didn't interrupt, she just wrote. Page after page of notes in her neat, precise handwriting. Her face was completely calm, like I was telling her about a case, someone else's case, not my life falling apart. When I finished, she looked up. Okay, she said. Here's what we're gonna do. She leaned forward. Her voice was steady. Clinical. The voice of a woman who'd done this 100 times before. First, you don't confront him. You don't let him know you know anything. You let him think he has all the power. You keep planning that party. You keep smiling. You keep playing the role. Can you do that? I nodded. Second, we gather evidence. Everything. Phone records, financial documents, proof of the affair, documentation of everything you found. We make it airtight. She was writing again, making lists, drawing arrows, building a strategy. Third, we protect your assets. The condo, the inheritance from your aunt, everything. We make sure it's documented as separate property. We make sure he can't touch any of it. She looked up at me and smiled. It was the coldest smile I had ever seen. And fourth, she said, we let him hang himself. We spent 3 hours in that cafe. Fiona made calls, right there. Phone pressed to her ear, speaking in that calm, professional voice. I need a favor. It's urgent. Can you meet with my client this evening? By the end of those 3 hours, I had a private investigator, a forensic accountant, and a plan. The private investigator was a woman named Carolina Ruiz, former FBI. Fiona said she was the best, said she'd worked on some of the biggest fraud cases in D.C., said if there was evidence to be found, Carolina would find it. We met that evening at a hotel bar in Arlington, the kind of place where business people meet for drinks after work. Anonymous. Forgettable. Carolina was in her 50s, short gray hair, sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She didn't waste time on small talk. I showed her the photos of Cecilia, the ones I'd taken from Victor's folder. She looked at them, nodded once. I'll handle it, she said. You won't hear from me until I have something concrete. Could be a week, could be 3, but I'll get what you need. Carolina worked fast. Within a week I had a dossier. It arrived in a plain manila envelope, left at the front desk of a UPS store I'd never been to before, addressed to Joanna Travis. Not Winters, Travis. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Victor and Cecilia at the Hay Adams Hotel, time-stamped, dated. They'd been there 6 times in 2 months, always checking in under Victor's name, always on weekday afternoons when he told me he was in meetings. There were photos of them at lunch in Georgetown, at a wine bar in Alexandria, walking through Eastern Market holding hands like they weren't doing anything wrong, like they were just a couple in love, like I didn't exist. But the photos weren't the worst part. The worst part was the messages. Carolina had obtained text message records through legal subpoena. She had connections, attorneys who could request them as part of a pre-divorce investigation. It was all legal, all admissible. The texts between Victor and Cecilia were graphic, explicit. I forced myself to read them, every single one, because I needed to know. I needed to see exactly who my husband was. But beyond the sex talk, there was other stuff. The planning. Can't wait to have the whole condo to ourselves. Your mom is right, the party is the perfect time. Do you think she'll cry? They talked about me like I was an obstacle, a problem to solve, an old piece of furniture they couldn't wait to get rid of. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. A text from Cecilia to Victor. 3 weeks ago. Baby, I know you're scared, but we have to tell her soon. The baby won't wait forever. Victor's response. I know. The party is perfect timing. Once everyone knows she can't fight it, we'll be a family. A baby. Cecilia was claiming to be pregnant. That's why they were rushing. That's why the anniversary party had to be the moment. They wanted to force my hand. Make me look like the villain if I fought back. Who argues with a man choosing his unborn child? But Carolina had included a note at the bottom of the file. Followed subject for 2 weeks. No doctor's appointments. No prenatal vitamins purchased. No visits to OBGYN offices. No maternity clothes shopping. No behavior consistent with pregnancy. Recommend further investigation. Either Cecilia was being incredibly secretive about prenatal care, which seemed unlikely for a 28-year-old with an active Instagram where she posted what she ate for breakfast, or she was lying. The forensic accountant Fiona hired was named David Brett. He was methodical, thorough, the kind of person who finds things other people miss. He tracked every transaction in our accounts. Going back years, building a picture of our financial life that I didn't even fully understand. And he found things. Over the past year, Victor had moved nearly $200,000 from our joint accounts into a separate account I didn't have access to. Small transfers at first, $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Nothing I'd notice in the monthly statements, nothing that would raise flags. But they added up. $200,000. Money he thought I wouldn't notice. Money he was planning to hide in the divorce. But David found something else. Something bigger. He called me on a Wednesday afternoon, asked if I could come to Fiona's office, said he needed to show me something in person. When I got there, David had spreadsheets laid out across the conference table, highlighted, annotated, color-coded. Your husband has been embezzling from his own company, David said. He walked me through it. Fake vendor accounts. Invoices for services that were never provided. Money funneling into personal accounts. It wasn't just marital fraud, it was corporate fraud, criminal fraud. And then he told me something that broke my heart. My cousin Jack, Victor's business partner. The man I'd introduced them to 15 years ago. The man who'd been at our wedding, who'd been a groomsman. He'd discovered it 3 weeks ago. Jack had been flagging suspicious transactions for the past month. Building his own investigation, agonizing over what to do. Torn between family loyalty and legal obligation. He'd been losing sleep. Fiona said he'd called her office twice asking for advice on a hypothetical situation. He'd wanted to protect me, but he didn't know how to tell me without destroying the family. Finally, he'd started documenting everything, preparing to report it to the board. The emails between Victor and his mother were the hardest to read. Not because they were explicit, but because they were calculated. Cold, strategic. Eliza had been planning this with him from the beginning. She'd met Cecilia at a tech industry gala 6 months before Victor did. She'd introduced them, intentionally. She's perfect for you, Eliza had written. Joanna was always too focused on herself, too educated. Cecilia will understand what it means to support a man. There were emails about me, pages of them, about how I'd let myself go, how I wasn't social enough, wasn't gracious enough, wasn't Southern enough, how the Travis name didn't carry the weight of old Virginia families, how I'd never really fit into the Winters family. Eliza had been keeping a list. I'm not joking. A literal list of reasons why Victor should divorce me. She'd sent it to him as a Word document. 37 bullet points. I read them all. Not one of them mentioned that I'd supported Victor through business failures, through his father's death, through his mother's alcoholism that nobody talked about but everyone knew. Not one mentioned that I'd given up my career for his. But the most revealing emails were about the condo. Eliza had convinced Victor it was marital property. You've lived there for 25 years, she wrote. That makes it community property. Hayes says we have a strong case. They didn't know the deed was in my name only. They'd never checked, they just assumed. And then David found something that explained everything. Public records, court filings, property records, financial liens. 6 months ago, Eliza had taken out a $400,000 loan against her house in McLean. The loan documents were public record. The payments were already 2 months behind. A notice of default had been filed with the county. David dug deeper, civil judgments against her, small claims cases from creditors, credit card companies, a casino in Atlantic City. And then he found the pattern. Eliza had been going to Atlantic City. Hotel bookings there, twice a month for the past year, always midweek, always alone. She was drowning in gambling debts. An email from Eliza to Victor dated 3 months ago suddenly made perfect sense. The condo is our best option. It's worth at least $1.8 million in this market. Once you have it, I can move in with you and Cecilia. We'll sell my house, pay off my debts, and start fresh. This isn't just about your happiness, darling. It's about our family's survival. She wasn't helping Victor out of love. She was saving herself. She needed that condo, needed to liquidate her house, needed her son to rescue her from her own mistakes, and she was willing to destroy my life to do it. Fiona reviewed everything with her team. We met in her office on a Saturday morning, just the two of us. Coffee and 3 bankers' boxes full of evidence. She spread it across her conference table like pieces of a puzzle. Phone records, bank statements, hotel receipts, the furniture spreadsheet printed out in full color, the emails, the photos, the timeline, Eliza's public loan documents, the foreclosure notices, Victor's embezzlement trail, Jack's internal investigation documents, the text messages about the fake pregnancy. Fiona sat back in her chair, looked at everything we'd gathered. Joanna, she said, this isn't just a divorce case. This is fraud on multiple levels. Marital fraud, corporate fraud, conspiracy. He's been hiding assets, planning to steal your property. His mother is using him to escape her own financial disaster, and his mistress appears to be lying about being pregnant to trap him. She paused. By the time we're done, he'll be lucky if he leaves with his car. We filed paperwork. Quietly, confidentially. Everything sealed. We prepared restraining orders, ready to serve the moment I gave the word. We drafted injunctions to freeze accounts. We secured affidavits from my parents, proving the condo was a premarital gift. Documenting the deed history. Showing the paper trail. We prepared subpoenas for Victor's company records. We contacted Jack. He was relieved someone else finally knew. He agreed to testify about the embezzlement. Said he'd been losing sleep over it for weeks. That he'd wanted to protect me but didn't know how to tell me without destroying the family. We prepared for war, but we did it in complete silence. Victor kept planning his anniversary party, kept meeting with Hayes, kept seeing Cecilia, kept texting his mother about furniture shopping, kept thinking he was in control. And I played my part. I confirmed details with the caterer. What time would they arrive? Did we have enough champagne? Should we do past hors d'oeuvres or a buffet? I approved the floral arrangements. White roses, silver ribbons, elegant, classic. Everything Eliza said was appropriate. I sent out the last round of invitations, made phone calls. We'd love to see you there. It means so much to have you celebrate with us. And I bought a dress. Red silk, fitted, elegant, bold. Not the soft pastels Eliza always insisted were more appropriate. Not the safe colors I'd worn for 25 years. Red. When Eliza came by to help with planning, she saw the dress hanging in my closet. She frowned. Red is rather bold for an anniversary party, don't you think? I smiled at her. I think it's perfect for the occasion. She didn't know what I meant. Not yet. The night of the party, I took my time getting ready. I showered, let the hot water run over me longer than usual, like I was washing away 25 years. I dried my hair straight, the way I used to wear it in law school, before Eliza convinced me that soft curls were more feminine. I did my makeup carefully. Red lipstick, bold, unapologetic. I put on the diamond earrings my parents gave me when I graduated from Georgetown, the ones I never wore because Eliza said they were too ostentatious. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in 25 years, I saw Joanna Travis looking back. Not Victor's wife. Not Mrs. Winters. Joanna. Victor was already dressed when I came out, navy suit, checking his phone, probably texting Cecilia. He glanced up at me. Did a double take? That's what you're wearing? I smoothed the red silk. Yes. Why? It's just very red. I smiled. It's our anniversary party. I wanted to look memorable. Something flickered across his face, uncertainty, but then his phone buzzed and he looked away. We arrived at the Rosewood Hotel at 7 p.m. The ballroom was perfect. White roses, silver ribbons, a string quartet, champagne towers, and a projection screen showing our life together. Wedding day. Vacations. Holidays. 25 years on loop. 200 guests arrived, all dressed up, all ready to celebrate. Eliza was near the entrance with her country club friends. She saw me. Her eyes widened. The red dress, the straight hair, the diamond earrings. She didn't like it. Good. Fiona arrived at 7:30. She hugged me, whispered, "You ready?" I nodded. Carolina was there too. Camera hidden in her clutch. David the accountant. Eleanor from Boston. And Jack, my cousin, who gave me a long look and took a seat near the back. All my people, scattered through the crowd, waiting. At 8 p.m., Victor stepped up to the microphone. The room quieted. He smiled, that charming smile that had fooled everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. He made a joke about silver anniversaries. People laughed. I stood next to him, champagne glass in hand, face calm, heart hammering. Victor started talking about marriage. About journeys, about how people change. People nodded, smiled. This was going to be sweet. Then his tone shifted. I have something difficult to share tonight. Something I need to be honest about. The room went silent. He said he'd been unhappy, that he'd met someone who made him feel alive. And then he said it. She's carrying my child. Gasped throughout the room. I'm going to be a father, and I owe it to my child to live authentically, to choose happiness. I watched faces. Shock. Pity. People looking at me, waiting for me to cry. Eliza watched with satisfaction. This was the plan. Public humiliation. Make Victor look brave. Make me look pathetic. When he finished, There was stunned silence. Then Victor handed me the microphone, a power move, forcing me to respond publicly. He thought he was trapping me. He had no idea he was setting me free. If you think you know how this ends, you don't. Subscribe now because what happens next will leave you speechless. I took the microphone. My hand was steady. I looked out at 200 faces and smiled. Thank you, Victor. Thank you for that speech, for your honesty. I paused. Because it saves me from having to be the one to tell everyone what you've really been planning. The room shifted. 3 weeks ago I found out that you and your mother hired Hayes & Associates, a divorce law firm, to strategize how to announce this divorce at our anniversary party. I found the folder in your briefcase, anniversary plan. The bullet points, the highlighted guest list marked as witnesses. I found all of it. Gasps. Phones coming out. Eliza's face went white. Yes, Mrs. Ashford, I know you helped plan this. The emails, the furniture spreadsheet for redecorating my condo with your son's mistress. Her name is Cecilia Scott. 28. 8 months of affair. I have photos, hotel records, everything. Victor reached for the microphone. Joanna, you're embarrassing yourself. I stepped back. No, Victor. I'm done being embarrassed. And about that baby? My private investigator followed Cecilia for 2 weeks. No doctor appointments, no prenatal care, nothing. She's lying to you, Victor. She lied about being pregnant to trap you. The room erupted. Victor's face went white. And here's the best part. This condo you thought you'd get? It was a premarital gift from my parents. The deed is in my name. Joanna Travis, always has been. You've just been living in my house. I pulled out papers, held them up. And that $200,000 you've been hiding? I know about it. That's marital fraud. But that's not even the worst part. Jack stood up. Victor's been embezzling from your company. Jack discovered it 3 weeks ago. He has evidence. This is corporate fraud, a criminal offense. The room was chaos. And 2 months ago, my Aunt Joy died. She left me $3.2 million. Money you never knew about. Money that's mine alone. Joy protected me from beyond the grave. I looked at Eliza. And your mother? She took out a $400,000 loan. It's in default. Gambling debts. She needed my condo to avoid foreclosure. She wasn't helping you, Victor. She was saving herself. Eliza gasped. I set the microphone down. My attorney has prepared restraining orders. The locks were changed at 6 p.m. Your things are boxed up. You have 48 hours to collect them with police escort. I looked at Eliza. That includes you, Mrs. Ashford. Then I turned and walked out, the red dress moving through the crowd like a flame. Fiona, Carolina, David, Eleanor, Jack, all behind me. We didn't look back. Behind us, chaos. Victor trying to explain, Eliza shouting, but I was done listening. I walked out of that hotel and into my life. Tell me in the comments, would you have handled it the same way? Drop your answer below. The video hit the internet within an hour. Someone had recorded the entire thing, both speeches, all of it. I found out later it was Jennifer, my friend in the third row. By midnight, it had 1 million views. By morning, 11 million. Woman destroys cheating husband at anniversary party was trending on 3 platforms. The comments were brutal. For Victor, for Eliza, for Cecilia. People found Cecilia's Instagram within hours. She deleted it by morning. But the screenshots were already everywhere. Her yoga poses, her motivational quotes about living your truth and choosing happiness. The internet is forever. And it's merciless. Victor called me 47 times that first night. I blocked him after the 5th call. His attorney, Hayes, called Fiona the next morning, tried to negotiate, tried to claim I'd defamed Victor publicly. Fiona laughed, actually laughed. Your client planned a public humiliation. My client simply told the truth, with evidence. Every single claim she made is documented and provable. If he wants to sue for defamation, we'll see him in court with every email, every text, every hotel receipt, every financial record. His choice. Hayes hung up. They didn't call again. The divorce took 4 months. Victor tried everything. Claimed emotional distress, tried to argue the condo was marital property despite the deed. Tried to prove I'd hidden assets, ironic considering what he'd done. But Fiona was relentless. She presented everything. The affair, the conspiracy with Eliza, The financial fraud, the embezzlement. Jack testified, provided financial records. The board of Victor's tech company launched their own investigation. They voted to remove him as an officer 2 weeks into the divorce proceedings. They didn't want the liability. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Nora Morrison. 20 years on the bench. She looked at the evidence, looked at Victor, looked at his attorney, and awarded me everything. The condo, alimony, half his pension, Victor's remaining assets after paying legal fees, restitution to the company, and his debts were enough to rent a small apartment in Silver Spring. Eliza's house went into foreclosure 3 months later. She declared bankruptcy. The gambling debts followed her. Last I heard, she was living with her sister in North Carolina. She and Victor don't speak anymore. Apparently, he blamed her for the plan. She blamed him for getting caught. Dysfunction runs deep in that family. 2 weeks after the video went viral, I got an email from Cecilia. Subject line, please read. Against Fiona's advice, I opened it. She wanted to meet, said she had something important to tell me. I agreed on one condition: public place, coffee shop in Arlington, Carolina nearby. Cecilia showed up looking different, no makeup, hair in a ponytail, jeans and a sweater. She looked young, scared. She sat down and started crying immediately. I'm so sorry, you have to understand. I did, but I didn't know everything. Then she told me. Eliza had approached her at that tech gala 10 months ago. Said her son was brilliant, successful, trapped in a loveless marriage. Said if Cecilia was interested, she could help facilitate a transition. Cecilia was broke, drowning in student loans, barely making rent. Eliza offered her $50,000. Paid in installments. Cecilia pulled out her phone, showed me bank transfers, 5 deposits of $10,000 each. All from Eliza Ashford. She called it consulting fees. Made me sign a vague agreement. I thought it was just about the affair. I didn't know about the anniversary party, about the condo, about the fake pregnancy. Eliza told me to say I was pregnant, said it would speed things up. I didn't know it was fraud. I looked at this girl, 28 and desperate, and I didn't feel anger anymore. Just tired and sad. You still participated. You still destroyed my marriage for money. I know, she whispered. But I can give you this. She forwarded me everything. Bank records, screenshots of Eliza coaching her. Evidence, proof it was all planned. I'll testify if you need me to. I sent it to Fiona. Then I looked at Cecilia. Stay away from married men, and get some self-respect. You're 28, you're young enough to start over and do it right. I left her there, crying into her coffee. I never saw her again. But Fiona used the evidence. Eliza's bankruptcy got a lot more complicated. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I sold the Georgetown condo, got $1.8 million for it. But more than the money, I needed it gone. Too many ghosts. I bought a townhouse in Old Town Alexandria, 3 bedrooms, exposed brick, built-in bookshelves, windows overlooking a garden, space that was mine, completely mine. I decorated it the way I wanted. Deep blues and greens. Nothing pastel, nothing Eliza would approve of. I went back to work. Brennan and Cole wanted me back. Consulting position. Pick my cases, set my hours. I started with immigration cases, housing rights, domestic violence advocacy. The work I'd always wanted to do. I was good at it, better than I remembered. I could look at a woman across the desk and say, I understand, I've been there. You're gonna survive this. And I meant it. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button, because women reclaiming their power, that's a story worth following. Fiona and I had dinner every Thursday. Sometimes we'd laugh about the party, about Victor's face, but mostly we talked about the future, the cases I was working on, the book club I'd joined, the painting class, the trip I was planning with my parents, the novel I'd started writing, the life I was building, slowly, carefully, intentionally. Jack apologized. Multiple times. Said he'd been torn between loyalty and doing the right thing. I understood. Family is complicated, but I told him next time, tell the truth. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. We have dinner once a month now. He started a new company, asked if I wanted to be on the board. I said yes. People ask me if I regret it. The public confrontation, the viral video, the way I destroyed Victor's reputation. They ask if I feel guilty. Here's the honest truth. I don't. Not for a second. He planned to humiliate me, to take my home, to make me look pathetic while he looked brave. I just didn't let him. I took his plan and turned it back on him. Some people say I should have handled it privately, that I was cruel, that I could have been the bigger person. Those people don't understand. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my power, about refusing to be a victim in someone else's narrative. About standing in a room full of people and saying, I know who I am, I know what I'm worth, and I won't let you take it from me. That's not cruelty. That's survival. That's justice. My mother came to visit last month. We sat in my garden drinking tea. She held my hand. I'm proud of you, for keeping what was yours, for fighting back, for remembering who you are. I told her about Joy, about the inheritance, about how that money gave me choices. She smiled. Joy always knew. She wanted you to have what I gave you on your wedding day, something of your own. Options. Freedom. I asked if she thought I was too hard on Victor. She laughed. Joanna, that man tried to steal your house. His mother tried to use you to escape gambling debts. His mistress lied about being pregnant, and you're asking if you were too hard on him? She shook her head. You were exactly hard enough. You survived. That's what matters. Victor taught me what I didn't want, but I taught myself what I deserved. A life where I'm not making myself smaller so someone else can feel bigger. Where I'm not sacrificing my identity for someone else's comfort. Where I'm not pretending to be less than I am. I'm Joanna Travis, Georgetown Law, class of 2000. Attorney, advocate, consultant, board member, author in progress. Woman who wore a red dress to her own funeral and walked out alive. Woman who turned her husband's humiliation plan into her liberation. Woman who inherited $3 million and kept it secret. Woman who had a guardian angel named Joy protecting her from beyond the grave. And I'd do it again every single time, because the woman who walked out of that ballroom wasn't new. She was always there. She was just waiting for permission to exist. And I gave it to her. I gave it to myself. That's not revenge. That's resurrection. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Joanna's position? Would you have exposed him publicly or handled it differently? Drop your answer below.